I asked her, I said, like, how do you remain relevant after you've had children? That was her experience, but she just said to me, you just get good childcare. And when she said that to me in that moment, I thought, actually, it does take a village to raise children. And
ready? 1, 2.
I completely lost myself. So I went from being an award-winning journalist, and I came here and I was a financial liability on my husband. Not that he ever made me feel like that, like really struggling mentally, because I thought, who are you? Otherwise, we live in these like closed boxes where we think that everything that we feel and go through, we're just on our own. But actually, when you hear other people talking about it, you realize that you're not alone.
Welcome to Her Own Narrative. And today on Her Own Narrative, we're joined by Balvinder Sidhu, a multi-award winning TV presenter, reporter, and a media trainer. Known for her authenticity, empathy, and courage to tackle taboo subjects, Balvinder has spent nearly 2 decades bringing untold stories to light, all while navigating her own journey as a mother, a journalist, and a woman redefining what success looks like. So from the newsroom to nurturing life itself, she's a living example of how we can hold both ambition and softness. And today we get to explore the woman behind the headlines. Balvinder Sidhu, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on Her Own Narrative today.
So let's just start this. When you first, I've been going through your profile, and your recent post talks about when you first found out that you were pregnant, you'd just literally been 2 months in your dream job, right? What was the first thought that went through your mind? Do you still remember that moment?
Yeah, I was, it was a really strange moment, because I think I was extremely happy to be having a baby. And I was also extremely happy to be having my dream job as a reporter. And I felt in that moment that sort of like, why has this happened to me now? When I've just started this job, which is going to require a lot of running around, a lot of filming, a lot of traveling. And will I be able to do that, whilst I'm pregnant, and when I become heavily pregnant? I had lots of things going on in my mind, and I thought, is this going to be the shortest career as a reporter? Because at that point in time, I wasn't quite sure, how much the workforce was prepared for women having babies, and whether what happens in that scenario, and also, like, I didn't know myself, like, after having children, am I going to want to be running around all over the country with a baby at home? So it was sort of one of those things where I thought, it's happened now, and I need to just see where it goes.
So what you said is so interesting, because you said you didn't know, was the team ready for a woman having a baby to be working with her? Because obviously your work requires a lot of traveling, as you said, and a lot of running around and reporting and all that. So at the same time, you also mentioned there was a little noise in your ear saying, am I going to be a liability, or am I going to become irrelevant? Do you think this is all societal, it's industry standards, or is it us personally? But even if it's an inner voice, where is the root cause? Is this just like societal expectations that once you start giving life, you're nurturing, a part of you has to lose yourself somewhere?
So I think, my workplace themselves never said anything to me. And if anything, they were extremely supportive during my pregnancy, even afterwards. It was more me, and it was more family as well, because there's this sort of natural expectation that as a mom, you would stay at home, but our bodies are also built that way. I'm the one who breastfeeds. I have to be around, I have to think about all these things. And then, I don't, because it was my first baby, I wasn't quite sure. And then you sort of think, well, other women have had children. But I think the main thing was I didn't have many like role models. So although my mum worked after she had like all of us girls, she was working in a factory. She didn't have a job that was, her passion or she didn't have a career as such. She worked more for survival. So we had babysitters, we had family rallying around us to look after us. But for my generation, we had more sort of we have careers. Man and woman, husband and wife are both working. So we're suddenly like, who takes the back seat in that scenario? And I think initially I did, but I realized that I wasn't prepared to take a back seat in the sense that I still wanted to work. I still wanted to tell good stories. I still wanted to succeed. And that's never changed. Like my children are 12 and 9 now, and I'm still working and I'm still extremely ambitious. I've still got lots of ideas of things I want to do. So that noise never died down. What had to change was how I handled it and how I looked at it and one of the things, when I was we have something called keeping in touch days when you go back to work so you can sort of ease your way back in. And I went to an event, and there was a celebrity there called Anne Robinson. She hosts a program called The Weakest Link, and she was, we were in an audience with her, like a private audience. And one of the questions, she's extremely successful. She's an older lady, and I asked her. I said, look, how do you remain relevant after you've had children? And she just said to me, which was quite, that was her experience. But she just said to me, you just get good childcare. Just make sure you have access to good childcare. And when she said that to me in that moment, I thought, actually, it does take a village to raise children. And why did I feel like it was only something that I could do on my own? And, I don't have access to, I should be having access to the help that I need, even if it's paid help. So it changed, shifted significantly my view of how I would make it work going
I think
forward.
that's so amazing what you've just said. It's like, having that shift in your mindset that it's not only my job. We can also, it could be as partners you come together. And also, as you said, it takes a village to raise a child. So you get help, either paid or grandparents. And, it's okay to have the help to keep myself alive too, because my personal ambition is important as well. And it's interesting what you just said. It's not only in the, yeah, obviously media, but we saw that shift in Bollywood and Hollywood as well. Women they used to be shelf life, they used to call it, isn't it, at some point, that once you're married, or especially if you have kids, you expired as an actor. And that changed. 20, I think, going back, I don't know what, 15 years or 20 years, women started taking pride and saying, no, it's okay, I can have a baby and I still can be an actor. I'll come back even bigger and better and, a stronger woman back at it. And that is so amazing. So, there is a shift you just said that I can still have my ambition, but still at the same time be as a soft woman, which I am a nurturer. No one can take that place because a woman biologically is made to do those things.
Yeah.
So what was, yes, you took that advice that, get help, but where was that conviction in yourself saying, I don't have to take that pressure all for myself?
So I'm extremely opportunistic. So part of that was looking around me. My in-laws were able to step in and help me once a week. I looked at the nursery, then I looked at childminders, and then between my husband and I, we had a system going. And then the second part of me went back to work and, pitched story ideas. So all of my award-winning stories came about after I had children. After I had my second daughter, sorry, not my second daughter, my second child, I won, a multitude of awards after she was born. So, like 8 or 9. I can't even remember now. I mean, it was a really significant move for me, because I went from never being nominated prior to having children to then being nominated to then winning. And then it was like, okay, maybe you are built for more, maybe you can do more, and you can have a family as well. And, you know, and then it was like I wanted to see more role models. I wanted to see women doing things, achieving things, whether it was setting up their own businesses, whether it was, you know, having a family and working. I just wanted to see more women, and more older women as well. Like, I didn't want to just, because I met this woman the other day. I was out, and she's an older lady. She's about a decade older than me, and her daughters have both gone to university and they've left the nest. So she's got the empty nest syndrome. And she said, I gave all my time to them. And she said, that's all I did. I stopped working completely. And she said, in this moment now, she goes, I really wished I'd kept a little bit of myself, so that I was working, even if it was just two days a week. She goes, because now I feel extremely lost. And, I have a lot of respect for women who choose to stay at home and they want to be stay-at-home moms. I think that's absolutely okay. It's a choice. And then there are some women who work full time, and then there are some who work part time and stay at home part time. When I had the children, I was stay at home part time and worked part time, and that worked very, very well for me. So there's no judgment about the choices we make. We do what suits us. But I realize that as I'm getting older, that I still do want to be there for the kids. I have made myself more available now that they're a bit older, but I now want, like, I'm at that point where I want quality of life now. So I don't necessarily want to be working 50 hours a week. I want to work half of that time and, earn the same amount of money, if there's a way to do that. So things are shifting all the time. But one thing is that I don't want my children, for me personally, I want to be a role model for my daughter. So she sees me working, she sees me being around for her at home. She sees me taking her to the Gurdwara, because I'm a Sikh and I'm quite spiritual. She sees me doing seva. She sees me, helping people. I constantly think, about what kind of role model do I want to be for them? And that's not just my daughter, that's my son as well. I want them to see me as a working mother with many facets. And that's just one aspect of who I am.
I'm going to join dots here, because when you started this conversation, you said you didn't have a role model, what you wanted. And now you're saying, I want to be that role model. Do you think it comes from your own need somewhere, and what you wished you had seen is what you're becoming?
Maybe. I mean, actually, that's a really good question. I've never really thought about it like that. I just feel, yeah, absolutely. When I look at, like, growing up, I mean, my mom's amazing. She's a single mom. My dad died when I was 8. She's raised 5 girls on her own. She did a lot. I have a huge, huge amount of respect for her and love for her. But in terms of when I was going through life and navigating like a career as such, I didn't really feel like I had many people that I could talk to. And you end up sort of playing in an area of mediocrity until you come across people who are doing that little bit more. And then you realize that actually you have much more potential. But unless you're in an environment where people can help you reach that potential, you'll end up playing in this area of mediocrity, which is something that I did not want to do. And that's very personal to me.
That is so amazing. I mean, I'm loving this conversation, because I totally believe in that as well. Well, I don't want to be mediocre. Yeah, in fact, I take it back to my school days. I was a mediocre student, but I always had the aspiration to be better, to thrive for more, to want more. And it's like, you've got to be in the atmosphere. We've got to be in the environment to thrive, isn't it? When they say you put a plant, when a plant is dying, you don't just throw the plant away, you change the environment. It needs more water, it needs a feed, it needs sunlight. The minute you put them right ingredients in there, the plant starts surviving and thriving. So it's just exactly the same thing for us as well. So, you know, the things, and this is no judgment again, there is nothing, they had to do what they had to do in those days. Your mom, my mom, everybody else's mom in that generation, they just had to do what they had to do. But our generation, I think there was a massive shift. We wanted more, and we are wanting more. What you just said, you know, especially the older women, we are coming into our 40s and we're realizing, just like the woman you spoke to about, is I actually want more. It's beautiful what we can create. We can create life. Without us, there is no more life. We're creating life, but at the same time, I don't want to give myself up to create that life and then hold on to resentment that because of you or for you, I lost myself. I think that is the shift somewhere that is happening in this generation, and which is amazing. So that brings me to a question. I don't, you know, the stories you're covering and the business women who are coming up, entrepreneurs, and that's another aspect I absolutely love talking to women is every woman in our generation who's coming up with a business or is an entrepreneur is purpose driven because there was a pain in her own life, and she's created something she couldn't find out there. So, you know, in that aspect, where do you think, what is your advice? Because you never left your career, right? If a woman is in a space where, like the woman you spoke to about, is, you know, there's emptiness syndrome, or there is even if it's not emptiness, the kids are at our kids' age, 13, 14, but there is, like, you know, it's an awareness, whoa, you know, I've got a little, suddenly I have more time. I have less physical exhaustion. It can be emotional, but less physical exhaustion. I have more time for myself. But what do I do with that time now?
Well, I mean,
What would your advice, yeah, what would your advice be to that woman who says, I want to do more?
so interesting you say that because I did have a gap in my career, right? I had a gap when I moved to Singapore. We moved nearly just over 2 years ago. And when I moved here, I couldn't work because of restrictions on the visa I was on. And so for a year, I didn't work. And in that year, I completely lost myself. So I went from being an award-winning journalist and I came here and I was a financial liability on my husband. Not that he ever made me feel like that. That was more me because I've always had my own income. And I was going for coffees and long walks and, you know, like really struggling mentally because I thought, who are you? You were a reporter, you were a presenter, you had a career, you were hosting events. And now suddenly you're in this other country, which is beautiful, amazing. It's welcomed you and your family, but you're not working. And I would sometimes tell my son to do his homework, and I'd be like, "You haven't done your homework today." And he said, "Well, what have you been doing, Mom, all day? You don't work anymore. So I've been at school. You don't have to do school and do homework. You're just relaxing all day." And then that moment really cut because he's not intending to be mean, but
No,
in that
no.
moment, he said something that was true, that was honest and raw from his perspective. And and I just looked at myself and I thought, who are you? And
Hmm.
where are you going? What is this? What is this? Like what and then my husband would be constantly like trying to reassure me that you're still the same woman. Those awards are still yours. But I was like, what do they mean? They don't mean anything. What I can't walk around with this. Look at me, I've won these awards. Please give me a job. It was this really tricky situation. And I thought, and then I tapped into the person who won those awards. And the person who won those awards is tenacious. She's gritty. She's, persistent. And I discovered, that the way that I can work in this country is by becoming self-employed. So I've set up my own company, which took me about a few months, and which then led me to working with the BBC in Singapore on an international news program here. And then I'm also running a global media training company, which has taken me to India and Australia. And I did that all within a year. And it was all by meeting people, networking, putting myself out there, really testing myself. It tested me because I've always worked for other people. I've always had an employer. And when you have an employer, you are accountable. But when you set up your own business, you are accountable just to yourself. And when you're accountable just to yourself, it's a lot harder to motivate yourself to
To
get
bring
things
that
done.
discipline. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot harder. If I've got an editor telling me, have you done that story, Val? We've got a 5 p.m. deadline. It needs to be written and edited. I am all there because, I don't like letting people down, but I like letting myself down because it took me a while to get
You
going. And
so interesting.
and it was in that moment that I realized that another thing that I think women should take away from this conversation is that if you want to do anything, whether it's setting up a company, becoming healthier, fitter, anything, find someone who will hold you to account. Somebody, not necessarily your husband or your children or your family, because quite frankly, I don't listen to them. They tell me to do
No,
this, and I'm just
none
like,
of us do.
your
Yeah.
opinion doesn't
Yeah.
count. But
Yeah.
anyone outside, so I became part of a networking group of women who run their own businesses. And in one of those women is a champagne specialist actually in Singapore, which was quite fun. And her and I became like accountability partners. Our businesses are entirely different. She's in the business of champagne, I'm in the business of media. But what we did was we used to meet once a week and we would hold each other accountable to any goals we'd set the previous week. And because of her and our connection, we, I went, it all started to happen. Things started to happen. I started to work. I'm so busy now. I haven't seen my accountability partner for nearly 3 months. But it's that, exactly that. And now I'm in a period where there's a little bit of a slump in the business. It's not doing quite as well as it was before June. And now I'm sort of like in that place again where I need that little bit of a boost. So I need
Push.
to go back to my business community. I need to go back to networking and just, increase my visibility. And it's interesting because I think mentorship, accountability, I don't think you can put a price on that.
No, you can't. You can't. And it's so interesting you say that because you know what? I did some self-development course a while ago, and that was the first thing we were talked about is accountability, also the word to yourself. I die, like I take pride and I say, I won't let you down. If I give you a word, no matter what happens, I will make it happen. But sometimes you don't give that word to yourself. You always think it's okay to let yourself down. If
Mm.
I've said I'm going to go for a walk, oh, I can't be, it's raining or it's this or it's that. But if I say, but I'm going to get your video edited and give it to you by 4 o'clock,
Mm.
why push or pull? I will make it happen. But we
Yeah.
don't keep that word to ourselves. So hence, it's very important to have that,
Mm.
that network of support, that network who actually says, go, do it. You can do it.
Yeah.
And that brings me to a very interesting, what you just said somewhere along the lines, when your son
Mm.
questioned you saying, what did you do, mom? You just relax. Because that's not only your story. Most of stay-at-home moms get that. My mom used to hear that as well when she was a career woman all her life. But but whatever step, even if she sacrificed the hours of working because she had to look after us and make sure that she's home for us and all that. In those hours, you always question, what did you do?
Mm.
Is it because the society defines success? I'm going to read this out because actually I wrote this down. Is it because society defines success by what we produce rather than what we pour out? Is it like success is always monetary? Is it success always comes with titles and the recognition and the awards and the visibility? What about me actually making sure that the house is warm and cozy for you to come into and it's welcoming? Why is there no value attached to that?
No, that's a really good question. I think it's just our conditioning. We are products of our experiences, and for a long time we value, you know, money. Growing up, people would always comment on people's houses or cars, or did you see that wedding? They're so well off. The sons are all lawyers or they're all doctors and they've achieved so much. there is this standard that society sets, and then as a consequence, we all end up joining the rat race, and then we achieve all of those things. We get the house, we get the car, we have, the private school for the kids, and then we're suddenly like, oh, well, what else then? That's when the kind of boredom kicks in, or something else kicks in. And I think what eventually happens, I don't know about anybody else, but for me, like, I take great value in the time that I give to my work because I enjoy it. But I also take great value in the time that I have with my children, and the dinner parties and the hosting events, having people come round. I I want to give them a home. I don't want them to see just a mother and a father who work and they never ever have time. So we do things like we have movie nights together, or we, on the weekends we have family time where we'll go and play badminton together. We have these things that we do, which I show them are that they matter, what they say matters, because it's in those moments where you are with your child, whether you're putting them to bed or you're driving them to football, that they start to tell you what's happening in their life. And that, I think, is extremely, extremely important. So for me, it's always been about a balance. I'm not one of these people that only cares about work. I want my children to know that I have a job, which I enjoy. It fulfills me. It gives me a sense of purpose. Like, they go to school, I go to work. But I also want them to see me as someone who's very nurturing, who likes a nice home, who likes to take them out, who likes to spend time with them. And, they do, my son is a teenager now, and he constantly says to me, "You're crashing out, Mom, because, we're not spending time with you." And I tell him, I say, "Look, like, it's important that you spend time with me, Dad, and your sister, because we are a unit, and I want us to grow close together, older. As you get older, I want you to understand that value." So we have traditions. We celebrate all the festivals, Halloween, Diwali, Christmas, and we have these traditions, and they are growing up with those traditions. So I want them to pass them on to their children. I want them to learn about the importance of family too. It's a value of mine. It's a huge value.
Absolutely important, so important. And you're right, and it's not always what you say, it's what you do. Kids are like sponges. You can't, in fact, any human being, if it was so easy to just be told and do what you want to do, there won't be any issues in the world. It's what you see, it becomes that impression is there. This has been a great conversation. I'm going to just have a few quick questions here, because I think they're the core of what this whole platform is. And I don't want you to overthink. Just say what comes, and it's actually going to be very raw, very authentic, because that's what I believe in. Yeah.
Okay.
So how important, and we've already touched this upon, how important do you think it is for a woman to be financially important?
I think it's extremely important. I think a lot. I think for me, it holds huge value. I'm actually learning about investments at the moment independently, because I feel like it's typically a male kind of area of work, as I've been working with people who are in that industry in Singapore, and I just think that actually, not touch wood, like, I've been married for a very, very long time, but you just don't know. My mom became a widow when she was 40. I'm 45. And she suddenly had to raise 5 girls on her own. And she suddenly had to understand the bills and everything else that, typically my dad may have been in control of. And so I think that having your own income is really important, as well as your shared income. Everything, should be equal, but I think it's important to have something of your own, just for your own sense of self-worth. And that's definitely for me anyway. I can't, I've never ever been able to just, people have said to me, "Oh, your husband's, got a nice job, and why do you don't need to work? You could just decorate your house and make it look pretty and stay at home." But I don't want to do that. Like, I need to have my own income for
Own
myself.
personal fulfillment, and there is again no judgment again for a woman who wants to do that, but your personal fulfillment doesn't come from that.
And also, you
I
just don't
get
know
that.
when your circumstances will change.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, things could change. You could suddenly find yourself in a position where you have to work, and then you're suddenly stuck because you haven't, and you're lacking
You don't know where
confidence.
to start.
So, yeah, I think I would always want my daughter to have her own, have something that she calls her own.
That's right. I absolutely agree with that question, with the answer. How important it is for women to share their experiences and stories openly.
I think it's really important actually because I think that we live in otherwise we live in these like closed boxes where we think that everything that we feel and go through we're just on our own, but actually when you hear other people talking about it, you realize that you're not alone. It could be anything, subjects around, relationships, children, family drama, parents, anything. It could be a number of different things, education. I think when you start talking about these things openly and honestly, it allows people to feel connected and feel less lonely. There's so many issues that people go through, and why suffer in silence? Through your story, you could potentially be helping someone, you could be inspiring them, you could be giving them the chance to look at life in a completely different way. Because we are more than our current situation, and our stories are constantly evolving as well.
Absolutely love it. Finish the sentence. Being a woman means.
Well, it means being a mother, a daughter, a professional, a sister, a friend, so many things. It means so many things. As women, we have many faces, which we are constantly juggling and trying to be good at.
Amazing. What's something you wish more women said out loud?
Gosh, that's a tough one. What do I wish more women said out loud? Um, I don't know. That's quite hard. What do I wish more women said out loud? I suppose it's their truth, whatever that is. Because I feel like we sometimes can keep up appearances because we're trying to impress others or trying to portray a certain image. And I think if more women just said their truth, like I'm tired or I'm exhausted or I'm not happy, I'm feeling depressed, or I feel great joy, I've achieved this, or I'm so happy today. I just wish there was more honesty. I think that's that and that we receive that with kindness and I authenticity, just truth and authenticity.
I believe that can change so much. Like I always say, and so many podcasts have said that, is that when you start sharing and you start talking about it, there's a solution that's going to happen. If you suffer in silence, how would anybody do anything about it? Like, there is hardly any research in women's health because we were suffering in silence. There was nobody talking about menopause or postnatal depression or perimenopause or bone health or anything because we were just conditioned that is being part of being a woman. Now we've started talking, people are researching into it. Our health was never an issue earlier.
Yeah.
I was talking to a family member and I was telling them the symptoms I had for the last couple of years with my, I think I'm going through a change and my periods were all over the place. And she just looked at me, she's like, I had exactly the same issues, exactly the same symptoms, but I never told anyone because I thought that was normal.
Yeah,
And it wasn't
exactly.
normal. The issues were so,
Yeah.
our symptoms were so uh, extreme that it wasn't normal. We had to be talking to somebody about it. If I
Yeah.
didn't have a friend who was a doctor, I would have probably suffered in silence as well because I would have thought it's normal.
Yeah, I think with that, it's like even things like I feel lonely. I wish I had more friends. Life changes, your kids grow up. We don't share that because then we think we come across as being needy. When I wasn't
Yes.
working, people have this image of me, but in my head, I that image had corroded, it had disappeared. So, I was afraid of telling people that actually there was a period in my life that where I didn't feel significant anymore, and I
Yes.
did feel less than. And it's taken a bit of time to rebuild that person again. A new version has come out now. It's Balvinder Sidhu 2.0. Um,
Yes.
so, but I could sit here and keep all of that in, but actually, I want women to know that I've also struggled as well, because otherwise they're just going to be living with this image of, oh, award-winning journalist. Actually, award-winning
Yeah.
journalist was like just up until a
Doesn't
couple of years
happen.
ago.
Yeah.
I'd lost
Yeah,
herself.
that's true, isn't it? It's like as any business, you don't just hold that this business is become successful overnight. Nothing is overnight. You have to see the struggles that that business went through. It's
Mm,
not that somebody is an amazing mom. You have to see the struggles behind. Everybody's an amazing mom. So
yeah.
we need to share. It's okay to say, you know what, I love my child, but I'm exhausted. It's
Mm,
okay to say,
I'm not-
I
yeah.
am, I love nurturing my family, but I'm ambitious. I want
Mm,
to do something for myself.
yeah.
Yes, so women need to speak more openly and more authentically and
Mm,
own themselves.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay, what's one rule? Have you ever broken a rule? And what's one rule that you broke and you thought, wow, I wish I'd done it earlier?
God, I don't think I have rules, so to speak. I mean,
Good. I love that. Could you say that again?
I don't think I have. I mean, I don't think I have rules for myself that I've broken, that I've had in the first place to break. Um, yeah, so I think, obviously if other people have rules, or my life and the country I live in has a lot of rules, I'm law abiding, but generally, I've never really set any rules for myself.
You make your own rules.
I
Absolutely
make my
amazing.
own rules, yeah.
What's the best part about getting older?
You become more self-aware, and you're not afraid to talk about your insecurities. You're more accepting of who you are, and you're less accepting of people who don't like you for who you are. So I think there was a time where I might have been more concerned about people's opinion of me, but now I'm like, actually, I'm great. I'm great. It's your problem that you don't see that.
You don't know.
Yeah.
Amazing. What does reinvention mean to you right now? Balvinder Sidhu 2.0.
Oh, so reinvention means, you know, continuous improvement. The journey's ongoing. I mean, I'm learning new things all the time. It's not to stop, and it's to learn from everyone. So I learn from people who are younger than me. My son teaches me things. My daughter's teaching me things. People I work with are teaching me. People who are older than me are teaching me things about life and skills. So I think life is about continuous improvement. Never ever stop learning and growing. If somebody's saying, I want to show you how to do this, you say, okay. And that could be a practical skill, like learning how to use a sewing machine for the first time, or it could be to learn about AI and how it's developing, and whatever. And do it with respect, humility, and gratitude.
Absolutely. Amazing. One piece of advice you would have given a 20-year-old self of yours.
Oh gosh, I just wish I had more confidence. I had huge imposter syndrome, and didn't think I was good enough for anything really. I just, sort of, I scrambled through my 20s, with very false confidence. And I really wish that I believed in myself a lot more, because you know, I think that journey might have been a little bit quicker and a little bit shorter to where I am today. But at the same time, I'm very accepting of who I was then, because I'm more sensitive to people who lack confidence now. I can see their worth. And now, because I know what that feels like, not to believe in yourself, I feel like because of that empathy that I have, I'm able to help lift others who may lack that confidence but have that ability.
I'm so glad you used imposter syndrome yourself and I didn't have to direct that script
Yeah.
towards that. Because every single woman I speak to, no matter how high achieving they are in their own fields or how amazing they are at what they're doing, there is always that I have a massive imposter syndrome. Where do you think, what, and how would we actually make sure that our daughters don't get that?
So I think for me, it's my background. I mean, where I grew up, I was from a single parent family, working class, grew up, we didn't have much money growing up. It was a struggle. And so when things would come my way, opportunities, it was almost like, am I deserving of this? Because I'm just this person from this background. We don't, I went to work with people who were sent to private school, or who went to some of the best universities in the country, or they just had this, they just oozed of confidence. They spoke like they owned the room. They deserve to be the next executive producer of a news organization. Whereas I was always like, thank you so much, thank you so much, so grateful, so humble, so like kind of like almost like, are you sure you think I'm capable?
Do I deserve this?
Yeah, so and then I spoke to these guys, these people who thought they could be the next prime minister, and they said the school that we went to said to us, "You are going to be the next prime minister." And the school that I went to said, "Please just get through with a grade A to C in your
Yes,
GCSEs."
please.
There was absolutely no pressure. And my mum, bless her, like, she's an immigrant. She didn't speak English at all. So she was just grateful that I could speak English. She would say things like, as long as you get a job, you could get a job in Tesco's because you can speak English, or you could get a job in the council. Wouldn't that be great? And it was me that wanted more. But like for her, her ambitions for me were very, very low. It was me that kind of wanted more. But so for ages, I carried that imposter syndrome. I didn't, you know, even when I was doing really well, I was thinking this is all gonna fall apart one day, and it's gonna be like, oh no, she's not really that great. But now it's not like that at all. Now I know what I'm worth, and I know what I offer and what I bring to the table.
Brings you back to exactly what we started our conversation with, is the environment that matters, because that imposter syndrome comes from the environment, and the imposter syndrome gone is from the environment. If
Yeah.
people around you bring the confidence in you and see the right parts in you, you start believing in yourself. As much as we say, what, I believe in myself and all that, but everybody needs that validation. Everybody needs to be seen, heard, and felt like, what, I matter. And
Yeah.
if I matter, each one of us are unique. So we must have something to give and make and bring value to somebody's lives. Absolutely amazing. Can I ask you, what does being her own narrative mean to you now?
I think it's just owning your own story, whatever that looks like. It's the beginning of your journey. So I feel like I've lived different versions of myself. Like I've been the teenage girl, the young girl who lost her father at an early age. I've been the young woman who went to university. I was the first daughter to go to university in my family. I'm the one who's become an expatriate. I've moved countries with two young children in my 40s and made a big shift. So I think that in each chapter of my life, it keeps evolving and changing, and I'm changing with it. But the biggest thing that I feel like I'm offering now is that it's just truthful, it's authentic. I'm not ashamed of who I was before. I'm very proud of where I come from. I'm surrounded in Singapore by extremely successful people who many of whom come from privilege, and I don't. But I'm not ashamed of that. I'm proud of that. I don't come
You
from
hold it
privilege, but
as your identity.
I'm sitting at the same table as you because I've earned this place. I've worked hard for it.
Amazing. Absolutely incredible. If we could leave this with one advice from you for a woman who's listening to this, saying, be yourself unapologetically, just like you are doing. You're not ashamed of what you are or where you come from, because that's nothing to be ashamed about. That was just circumstances. It's
Yeah,
what you make of it. So what
absolutely.
would your advice be?
I think it's just, of course, be yourself, be true to yourself, but most importantly, focus on yourself. Don't ever compare yourself to other people. Don't think she's got this, she's doing this. Think, what can I do? Where can I go? And do you do you really well. Like, focus on your own journey, whether it's your career, whether it's wanting to be a good mom, whether it's wanting to, be a good, healthy person with a good lifestyle, whatever it is. Don't listen to the outside noise, just focus, because people will always have something to say. They might judge you because you work full time. They might judge you because you stay at home. They might judge you because you like to look pretty or you like to look nice. They might judge you because you don't look nice and you like to hang around in sweats all day. But you do you. If that's what makes you feel happy, that's what makes you feel comfortable, and that's what gives you joy, don't let that spark die, because that is uniquely you. We are unique. Me and you are never going to be the same. Me and the woman next door to me are never going to be the same. But whoever you are, be you, be happy, and be proud of you, because you are unique and special.
I love this conversation, Val. Thank you so much for amazing, stimulating conversation. And it's so amazing to see that how many of us women are actually speaking a similar language. And that fills my heart. And that is the purpose of having this platform, that let's bring this tribe together. We are so many of us, let's speaking exactly what we want to speak and owning ourselves unapologetically. Thank you so much for being part of Her Own Narrative, and we look forward to sharing your story with all our readers and viewers.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.